someone to bury. Added to my family tree. Our love when we disagree. Our love when we fight. When you on my team, it's a good.
Okay, that was good. That was good.
When you on my team, it's a good thing. Hella fun montage movie scene. Watch it all fly by like a dream. It's a good thing.
Everybody, we can just unmute this. And hello, is this thing on?
Hello.
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 And we live. It's
live.
been a week,
Yeah, it's
but
been a week.
I mean, Disney Plus has successfully just overtaken our lives, and you know what? I'm fine with it. But hey, everyone watching at home, if you're watching live on Twitch or if you're watching the recording on YouTube, welcome to JMN, that's Joker's Movie Network, where we talk all things movies and TV. This week, it's all about Disney Plus and how it's
Yeah,
going
it
to absorb our lives from here on out. And we're going to be talking well in depth with the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. Because if you know us, we're obsessed with Star Wars. It's bad. I have 14 degrees in Star Wars, working on my 15th. And that's just what my life has consisted of and pretty much always will be.
I mean, counting the movies and the books, there's probably like 40 plus Star Wars related
Countless
items.
amounts of money.
No, so there's about 40 plus items just in this room right now. There's, 3 posters?
We've got 3 posters, with one I haven't even put up yet.
Yeah. And then all of the books up here. The Aftermath trilogy is missing a book, but that's in the living room.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
reading it.
actually, we've got, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 in here, plus another, 12 or 13 out there. We have many.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased with it. The fact that, I just recently got into all these Star Wars books, so I keep buying them, and it's a bad habit. But I guess reading's good for you, so hey.
I got you some for Christmas last year. Does that make me an enabler?
Yes, you are
Okay.
actually one of the reasons this is happening, and it is all your fault entirely. So thank you for that. But you know what? It's fine. So Disney Plus had a little bit of trouble at launch. For most of the United States, we just couldn't even access it for half the day. So started my free trial that morning so I could come home later and download it. And I was like, great way to do this. We start off by getting it, and we can't use it. Way to get that first free day, but oh well, it made it happen. And then eventually we got to watch The Mandalorian that night. Blown away by it, everything. I don't know, do you want to start with what Disney Plus is as a whole, or do you want to go straight into the spoilers for The Mandalorian?
I think we should probably just go straight into The Mandalorian, because I feel like that's probably going to take the majority of our time today.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of opinions on it, and I'd say you do too.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
First, I want to start off with Werner Herzog.
Okay.
He has been, his one little appearance in the first episode, the little brief moments we get from him, he is still the most intimidating man. Every time he talks, I just feel like something's about to break out and go down.
Wouldn't you agree? You're just like, yeah, okay, I'll agree. Don't shoot me. Don't do it.
Whatever
No.
you say, man. Here's my wallet.
So my first thought was just the overall visuals though of the entire show. You can tell there are some limitations, and that's going to happen with anything, regardless of if it's a movie or a TV show. Yeah, the actual Star Wars movies have ridiculous budgets of $300+ million. It's expected though, and I think what was the budget for The Mandalorian? Was it $100 million?
Yeah, something like that.
So it is limited, but it's still a lot of money. And I think where this thing excels is that they use their money very wisely. There are some scenes where I can be like, okay, this is definitely TV versus Star Wars, versus the film, but that's completely fine. It doesn't take away from it from me. It's just I can tell where the limitations had to be. But I think they used it wisely, using a lot of props and a lot of actual physical things instead of all CGI stuff. They use CGI where they had to, but for the most part, it is all practical effects, and I think that's what they did very wisely.
I can see where you're coming from. So far, I haven't really picked up on it at all. I'm sure if I went and looked harder, then I would see something.
I mean, in no way bothers me. I'm just be like, okay, I can see there's some differences here, but it doesn't take away from it at all. It's just one thing that I just happen to notice with my eye, I guess.
And I've seen that kind of thing before. You can tell most of the time when something is a television product.
Yeah.
This one so far, it just hasn't seemed to have any cracks in the armor for me. I'm really enjoying this.
I mean, even though noticing it, I do get really drawn into the story, and I'm just it's kind of creepy in the sense that it is so far away from everything we've known Star Wars wise. This is the first thing
Absolutely.
we're getting that's not really tied in to the Skywalker saga at all. So it just feels very alone.
It honestly feels more like the Shadows of the Empire kind of
Yeah.
universe.
It's like everything that was happening on the side of it. You know, with Shadows of the Empire, it was Dash Rendar on his own. There were times where you would run into like Han Solo or many of the actual like cast members, but it was always parallel and would get
Let me
split.
try that word again.
What?
It sounded like you said actual cast members, and I'm just not comfortable with that one.
So it was parallel and it ended up splitting apart. So you're by yourself the whole time. And that's really what I think about with The Mandalorian. It's just like he's got no recognition with everything. He's just his own guy doing his own thing. And it's kind of sad. But I love it. It gives me that vibe. Just like this galaxy is huge. And this is a story we didn't know about until just now. This guy's just doing his own thing.
And that's the reason why I don't feel like it's sad. We haven't really had a reason to buy into him being alone, and is that a good thing? Or
I mean,
a bad
and
thing?
I'm not saying like him being alone is sad. Is like
Yeah.
I get that mood from the colors, how like physically dark a lot of the sets are. The music is just eerie.
It is very eerie, and I like how the intro. I mean, the intro graphic is really cool with all the helmets being shined upon, and then the multicolored Star Wars logo.
Oh, that's so cool.
But the Mandalorian intro itself, where there's like that Western theme.
Yeah, it
with,
just pops up on the screen.
Yeah, you've got like it's almost like a space western, and I know Star Wars is kind of that in general. But
I just now
hones in on
thought
that.
of that, but the really low bass pan flute they use that woo woo woo. It just hit me now that I'm pretty sure that's like the Star Wars version of the wah 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 doo-loo-loo.
It's pretty close.
That's like really what that is. So that just makes me like it's just more of that whole Western thing, because there's a lot of the whole like draw shootout type stuff that we see in the beginning of the first episode, and it's just a lot more of that later on, where it's just a lot of shooty, grappling, flamethrower.
Yeah, it's definitely designed to be that kind of show. It's supposed to be this lone gun kind of mentality, and I'm really enjoying that so far, and I feel like it makes the sparse interactions we do get in between those other characters feel very earned, because for the most part there hasn't been that much dialogue.
Honestly, I was kind of thinking about that during the second episode. It was just like it's really just a lot of like action. Like I imagine the script was probably no bigger than probably like that, but most of it was probably just like description of like, okay, you're, now he's gonna walk over here, or he's gonna pick this up, or he's gonna use this, and then there's like one line of dialogue.
And I think that is balanced out by, particularly this episode was just an opportunity to do that, because if you've seen them by now, spoilers if you haven't, obviously we've already talked about the first, we didn't really jump into the second episode yet.
I'll say it's labeled that there are spoilers. So.
Yeah, so if you are here, click at your own risk kind of thing. But in the second episode, we get like 5 minutes of conversation, maybe.
Pretty much.
Like there at the very end. But for the most part, he's just out there evaporating Jawas, stabbing space rhinos, and wandering around with a little
But let's talk
baby
about
boy.
that, though, because especially Pedro Pascal's performance, but a lot of the actors in this show so far have just been phenomenal. Like, you've got Pedro Pascal, who's the Mandalorian. He's the big guy on campus, and I think he's just doing a stellar job. Even if I don't know what the whole thing is going on about there being a body double in the suit, and he's only providing the voice of the character.
I think that's what
because that's what I've been told.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, like even for not being in the suit, I think he's just nailing the part. He's just okay, fine. He's very dry.
Yeah, it's a very cold character so far. It doesn't really give you anything to lean in on. And I like that, because this is our first look at kind of the seedy underworld of the new canon of Star Wars. And so jumping in with a character like this, where you don't have to know 25 years of family history and who they've dated and all of that, like it's nice to just jump in and be like, okay, I can get behind this guy. He's got a flamethrower on his wrist, a gun at his side, and he's just ready for all the action.
Yeah, and then you meet some of the other greater characters, like Carl Weathers' character as Grief Karga, this guy who's handing out all the bounties to everyone in the league or whatever it is. You just love Carl Weathers. You just have to love Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers, I think, is a great choice for that role, and he feels almost in the same vein as Saw Gerrera. That
100%. Yeah.
It's kind of like the veteran presence, a little steely. Like, I love that you kind of get that same feeling of like, oh, this is just a veteran of their craft.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they're doing.
He's been around for a while. He knows the in and outs. He runs the whole thing.
Yeah, those kind of characters are kind of rare right now. Like, we've got in the main trilogy, we've got like Maz Kanata, who's kind of that, but a little more spontaneous, rambunctious, just kind of
Yeah,
all over the place.
and I would argue that Grief Karga is probably a lot more sane than Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, at this point,
He was
for
like
sure.
the most paranoid person
Oh,
ever.
absolutely, he is.
But I mean, he had good reason to, at least.
Yeah, but in the operation that he was running, there was a reason that he was the top guy. Like his experience is what got him there.
He knew what he was doing.
And it kind of feels like Grief is the same way. He doesn't feel like the guy from Deadpool who runs the bar.
Oh, Weasel.
Yeah, it's like when he's the one supposed to be keeping track of all these bets and everything.
Yeah, he's
it
just
doesn't
like-
feel quite like that.
Yeah, it's not like it's like almost out of control constantly. He's just like, whoa, guys.
Yeah, hey, whoa, calm down.
It's more of the, no, I am in charge, you listen to me.
Yeah, it's definitely I'm the captain now kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And then going back to it, Werner Herzog as the client. That's all he's known as right now, is this Imperial guy. Is he going to be a warlord? Is he going to be something else? I think, because the way I think it, I feel like he's one of those people, because, by this point, it's after Return of the Jedi. The Empire's in disarray. I've talked about this many times, but it just makes me feel like that's exactly what's going to be happening, is that he's trying to just get enough power under him to be the next top dog for the Empire. And maybe that's why the plot is possibly taking the route that it is.
I could definitely see that. It would make a lot of sense if he was just kind of this power grab person, because we know that there is a power vacuum in the universe
Very
at
much
this
so.
point. After the fall of Palpatine, the Empire starts falling apart. The books have done a great job of detailing more and more of that and what it looked like.
There's
in that side of
so
the world.
much about what goes on between 6 and 7 that's been described in the books, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and everything gives you a pretty clear picture that this was not a safe time in the history of this galaxy. It's just not really. It's hard to survive, and there are people who are trying to shark their way through it. And so, if this is kind of a Dryden Voss-esque character who is just a warlord or in control of some kind of unit,
Yeah.
it would make sense if this is a power play, because the package ends up being pretty damn important, as we learned in episode 2.
Yeah, and Dr. Pershing, played by, let me see if I can get this name right real quick. So it's Omid Abtahi. He's a American-Iranian actor, I believe.
Okay.
Plays Dr. Pershing, one of the first Star Wars characters ever to wear glasses, which I'm still freaking out about that one, because everyone in Star Wars apparently has perfect vision, just as is. But he mentions that he preferred to have it alive so they can run all these experiments on this package that they're trying to get, and I'm like, obviously they want it alive so they can get this thing's power, because we realize that this package has powers in episode 2, and it's spoiler talk, so we can just say it. This package that he goes out to get is a baby Yoda.
Whatever that race is.
The race has never been described.
Yeah.
We've seen multiple versions of it that are no longer canon. They just wanted it to be the one, and now there's another who is also force sensitive in some manner, but apparently is very great. Maybe Yoda's like a phoenix, and after he dies, he's just reborn from the ashes as a 50-year-old baby.
It's like the idea of Professor X always inhabiting something. It switches the mental and the physical body is not important. Maybe Yoda just transcended.
I mean, honestly, that would be a pretty good comparison, considering Professor X is the guy in X-Men.
Yeah.
And Yoda is definitely the guy in Star Wars.
And, I mean, what we saw from Yoda passing away wasn't exactly very Yoda-like. He did just kind of, force himself to die faster to escape talking to Luke. So,
I always had a theory that he died faster in Return of the Jedi because he used so much of his ability in the Force and Empire to rise the X-Wing out of the swamp.
It's a possibility.
I was gonna say, there's no surrounding evidence for that. There's no concrete nothing. It's just, what if?
Because we have these two pieces, maybe we can...
Why not just force them together? Absolutely.
That's where a lot of fan theories, I think, come from in Star Wars, and most of them turn out not great, I gotta be honest with you.
But I mean, at least that one's a little bit more tamed.
That one is definitely more controlled.
Like the Darth Jar Jar theory, that's just skyrocket. I'm amazed there hasn't been a book on that yet.
I mean, I'm in favor of it.
I'm not. No, don't. Nope.
It makes the prequels more interesting.
No thanks. Don't want. Not a fan.
I mean, the idea is a little silly, but the prequels also aren't great, so...
I don't know. I don't think it's my thing. But there's still more characters. One of my favorites that was sadly only there for a little bit, IG-11, played by Taika Waititi.
IG-11 does have some pretty interesting characteristics about him, and the fact that he's mostly IG-88, but
same. Different, but still same.
different, but same.
It is still, an IG assassin model. That's
Yeah,
what it is. But it's, you got to call it IG-11, not IG-88. Otherwise, George Lucas gets $1 million kickback.
That's what I've heard.
I love that so much. And I really thought that IG-11 was going to be involved more with the show. But then I kind of realized Taika's probably a pretty busy person.
I'm sure he is. I think that he'll probably wind his way back in.
I hope so.
In some capacity. I don't,
IG-12.
well, even then, like, he was killed, but he just kind of like
He
clung
was
to the
just
floor.
trying to like self-destruct the entire time. He's like, well, we can't do it. Must self-destruct. Will you stop that?
I think, like I said, he was kind of killed, but he just kind of hit the floor, and that was it. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Who knows what was going to happen next?
Yeah, it's like maybe for whatever reason we have to venture back to this planet later on, and then the Jawas or somebody has found the robot, and now he's back online, and something like that.
Oh
wouldn't surprise me at
man,
all.
that would be stressful too. But speaking of the Jawas, we got a character that I'm pretty sure is going to become one of your like new favorites, being Kuil, the Ugnaught, played by Nick Nolte.
Yeah, he's pretty great.
He's just like, I have spoken.
He's so unconnected to everything. He was just like, oh, I'll help you do the thing.
He's like unconnected and so genuine, but also kind of just like knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he was just like, I just want my valley back, and if you do that for me, I'll do whatever the hell. I'm
Right,
fine.
and he's so genuine to the point where he's just like, sure, I'll help you do this thing, but I'm not going to jump off a cliff for you. Like, no, I have common sense kind of thing,
I'm going to preserve myself, but as long as it doesn't hurt me to help
just
you.
in case, just hold on that thought.
I do really like him. I hope we see more of him.
I think we will, because he offers, he's like, if you want to come with, he's like, I fought too long for my freedom to be another like servant. And he's like, okay, fair enough, but I definitely think that's going to be like a weird comparison. But the Mandalorian to Kuil is going to be like Edward to Winry, like constantly going back for repairs or more knowledge or something like that. I think that's going to be a constant like stopping point.
I hope so. I really like that character. And a small little sidebar here. You have Twitter open on the side, and the #1 trend for you right now is hashtag Baby Yoda, and that is just the best. I love that so
And
much.
directly below that is the Mandalorian. So
Everything's going right.
Everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to be going. But it was weird, these two episodes. So we had episode 1 was about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then episode 2, which was about 25-ish, about 30, give or take about an hour overall. And we were told it was supposed to be like hour-long episodes from the start. You had a good theory that I'm pretty sure I'm on board with, and that was that.
To me, it seems like the first 2 episodes that we've seen were probably supposed to be one larger episode. Due to the fact that we got, like you said, 43-ish minutes of footage in the first one.
Right.
And then about 20, I would say about 24 after the intro and the credits. If you shave off those, it puts it right within about the hour mark.
Right.
And we were told that when The Mandalorian started, to be discussed more in detail, they were saying there were hour episodes, it would be weekly. And so we did 2 episodes this week, and we roughly got an hour. And now that we're moving to Fridays every week except for the launch of Rise of Skywalker, I would look forward to that coming back and being a full hour-long length.
And I really think it will, and that it should, because when you put it that way, like thinking of it, so you have the launch on Tuesday. Well, you want the shows to come out on Friday. Well, why not, with the launch of Disney Plus, at least put out 1 episode, cut part of it and make it 2 episodes. It might have already been planned. Probably was, when they're like, okay, so we're going to launch on this day. Everyone's like, great, we know what to do. So you get you get the taste of it in that first one. And you're like, okay, I want more of this. You're like, good. There's more of it coming out this Friday, which is the 1/4 of the full episode that we didn't get in the first part. Connected together, you get about an hour's worth of an episode. And then when next Friday comes around, we'll probably get a full-out episode on top of that. And I think that's a genius thing to do.
I also think story-wise, it probably just made sense to cut those pretty early.
Because they really did feel like so attached, like, cool, he found it, and then the next episode opens, he's like, well, I have it now.
Yeah, and I think the thing that made sense to me was the ending of this episode definitely feels like the ending of a pilot.
Yes, 100%.
It was like, okay, now we're established, we have a world that we're somewhat familiar with.
Right, you had the beginning, you had the driving factor, you went through it, you got what was driving, what the driving factor was, and now then that should be the end of the pilot. You got it, you got there, you did it safely, we're good. He got his ship all repaired after the Jawas tore it apart. Great sequence, by the way, the whole Jawa thing.
Oh yeah, it was
sniping
incredible.
Jawas from a mountaintop and then having to converse with them. I thought that the Jawa, like, just talking complete smack to him was honestly,
It was
like,
beautiful.
that was something I didn't know I needed. I didn't need to see a Jawa be like, you talking Jawa, you sound like a Wookiee. And I'm like, wow, this Jawa just talks a mad lip to you. You gonna take that? And he's like, no, and he lights him on fire. Well, he attempts to, but
Especially after he had just like obliterated 3 or 4 of them.
three
just
or
a
four
few,
of them
like-
with this blaster rifle that was from, what was it, like the one designed from the Christmas special that everyone despises, but this thing is literally like a vapor ray.
It really is a vapor ray, and that wasn't that long beforehand. Essentially, his ship got torn apart. They went and arranged a meeting, and then they are talking shit to it. And I'm like, that.
And I
you guys
found
got
it,
real bold,
and
real
I
fast.
don't know if this is on. I don't think it's Tatooine that they're on, but I find it interesting that like the Jawas on this planet wear gray robes and have like piercing red eyes, as opposed to like your basic Jawa that's got the glowing yellow orange eyes and the brown hoods. So there's a big difference there, but I'm all here for it. You know, just like showing like the same race can exist in different areas, but their apparel and everything they're wearing is gonna look different according to where they are.
Yeah, that was interesting at all. I mean, to me, just to find Jawas wherever we are, whatever planet that was.
It's like, oh hey, look, Jawas.
There might have been a mention of it in the first episode that we just missed. I'm not certain on that, but I have no idea what planet they were on. And so when he came back to his ship and there was just a sand crawler and
Yeah,
They
they
were
saw
just taking
Sand
apart-
Crawler just destroying the ship. I was like, oh, that'd be an issue.
I was like, that's not good. You have a problem.
And then he tried to fight all of them. That was pretty intense, climbing up the Sand Crawler as it was driving.
That
And
was
he
fun.
gets to the top and just gets zapped R2 style and takes quite the fall.
I liked that bit when he was climbing up and it cut back to the little baby Yoda that was just like trailing behind.
He was
the
just like,
crawler.
yeah, because he's got like the marker or whatever on him that's causing like the cradle to follow him. And it was just like hauling ass after the Sand Crawler.
I was like, that was a real unique spin on that. I really enjoyed that.
I know, because he's just like over there going through all the actions, punching, kicking, climbing, throwing Jawas out of the Sandcrawler, and then there's just Baby Yoda just huddling along, trying to keep up the dad.
He's just watching the entire time, just like, oh, okay.
It's everything in this show is just ridiculous.
It does feel like, as we were saying, like it's the underground lifestyle, it's the bounty hunters, it's all of that. It feels like that turned to 10 in the first 2 episodes, or
Yeah,
in my
pretty
case,
much.
what I consider the first episode, because he just opens the entire show by walking into a bar and like beating 9 people down.
And then cutting a guy in half with a door.
Yeah, like literally severing a
good.
man in half, and then he just hops on a plane, goes to the next planet, slices his way through some more shit,
Yeah, like
and then picks up Baby Yoda. And I'm like, what? This series is insane already.
I know, and it's so interesting the way they're taking the route for this Mandalorian, because like the Mandalorians are supposed to be these hard-edged warriors ready for battle at the drop of a hat, and I'm wondering I wonder if like the flashbacks to his childhood, like during the Clone Wars, like his planet getting like destroyed, I wonder if it caused more of like a humanity vibe in him for him to be like that, just because like there's a lot, like especially with the Baby Yoda, you know, like IG-11 was ready to just ice him there on the spot, and he said no, so he got IG-11 instead to keep the baby alive, and he's just like showing all these like he's thankful, he's you know, always shows gratitude when he's helped and all that, and like he's in situations where like with the blurg, is that the new riding creatures they have.
Yeah.
And then this new space rhino thing, which granted the space rhino is a pretty intense creature to be
It was
fighting,
super intense.
but he doesn't seem like he's that completely like hard-edged, ready for battle Mandalorian that we've like grown up knowing. But you know, during the Mandalorian Wars and now are 2 different times where they were just constantly bred for battle and always fighting each other. And now you have this guy who's on his own, really fighting to keep whatever small area in that underground world of the Mandalorian tribe that he's with, like, alive. Like, he's working to make their lives better.
It may be a situation like that.
I know that was a lot.
But I also think that, particularly with the IG-11 thing, he was kind of ordered to bring the baby back alive. Mm-hmm. So they could do these, you know, their tests and their research and stuff. So maybe some of that was the compulsion. But then in the second episode, for sure, he does get a little softer, a little more tender. And as you can see, as the baby's like reaching out, it puts its finger out, and he matches it. He's like, oh.
Yeah, and
do a block.
in the end of the first episode, they were just kind of like having that moment there.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, what is this baby?
I'm very curious about this thing. because
Thankfully, one thing that I'm very thankful for is all the stuff I look at throughout all Twitter, Facebook, what have you. There hasn't been anyone that's complained about it.
I haven't seen anything yet, no.
Which is interesting, because, you know, the moment you put Baby Yoda in anything, everyone's going to be like, okay, well, hold on, this was supposed to be the Mandalorian, this was supposed to be no Jedi, la 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 la. One, it's baby.
Well, it's an actual baby.
But it is force sensitive. But I'm like, okay, I have questions. I don't hate it yet. It could very possibly happen that they, like, explain what it is, and I'd be like, oh, that's garbage, don't do that. Probably won't happen. But until I get some description or of what it is and why it's there, I'm not going to hate on it.
I don't think there's any reason to hate on it, because we did see that it was force sensitive in this episode. It does, I'm assuming you've watched if you're here, he uses his hand and just stops the space rhino.
Yeah,
and
that
he keeps
was
it there for
insane.
a good amount of time. Like,
And then passes out.
yeah, it's no easy feat, but also in any type of myth, if any type of power can be awakened in like young kids or people who have the power when there is an emergency on the line. When you think about superhero stories, a lot of heroes get their powers at like tragic moments. You know, trains are coming at them, or they've been pushed off of a bridge and they learn to fly. Like, these things are rooted deeply in our kind of human storytelling mythos. And so to put it in Star Wars, where maybe it was just a moment, maybe the baby was just like, I have to do something.
Yeah.
The only thing that's responsible for me is about to die. That's entirely possible. I don't know if that's the case, but it could be a moment if it was just like, yeah, it pretty much gained that super adrenaline from knowing that it was in a hard situation. And we don't know where the baby was at before, if it was mistreated.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, like, doing the math in my head, this baby's 50 years old. It has pretty much lived through the entirety of the Star Wars saga. From episode 1 through there, it would have been alive through all of it.
Is it officially 50 years old?
It said the baby was 50 years old in the first episode. He said it's supposed to be 50 years old, and he said, but, you know, all species age different. So I'm like, huh.
I couldn't remember the actual number.
Yeah, it was like, so where was this thing, and why did we not know about this until now? Who was hiding it where?
Also, is it Yoda's? Because that's important.
Well, that's the other, because like Yoda was alive through most of it, obviously, but like, I have questions. I need answers. I know the reincarnation of Yoda would have been funny, but it just make no sense unless he was born at like 30. Which, I mean, I guess, man. Born with just a degree, and he was ready for, you know, being an accountant.
He came out and was like, yes, I do have opinions on these firms. And you're like, that's a baby.
Yeah. Was it the CPA exam? He came out with passing scores for the CPA exam. And we're just like ready to go.
Just came out with a certified.
They have so much they have to answer. And that's why I said this was a bold move to put this in here at the beginning. Because, you know, there was only the one. There was never supposed to be any more of them. No race to be explained of what, like, who they were or anything like that. Now they have to. So they got to play this story very carefully. If it's really 50 years old, as they explain, what was going on? Because it just went through the rise of the Republic against the Trade Federation, to the fall of the Republic, to the rise of the Empire, now to the fall of the Empire. There's been a lot of shit that this baby's been through, whether he was directly involved with it or not. He was still around when all of this happened. What's going on?
I think part of the reason that you can explain that is we know from all of the other extended media that we have outside of just the movies, there are a lot of secrets being held at any given time in the Star Wars universe. Pretty much every planet has some kind of underbelly something going on. And sometimes it's the good guys. Sometimes the good guys have secrets. Sometimes, and most often, it's the bad guys, and there's cartels, and there's bounty hunters, and there's raiders, and all kinds of ugly.
All kinds of that stuff.
Just all kinds of bad stuff. Maybe this is one of the rare examples where, in the idea of Bail Organa kind of being like, okay, we gotta go. I gotta go. Yeah, like that kind of mentality. It's like there were definitely people colluding to make good things happen. Luke and Leia being separated but raised in good families and all that. Like, that is a prime example of, like, there were things happening in the underbelly of this universe, and maybe this is another one. Brian's in the chat. What's up,
Yeah, I was
buddy?
gonna say, hey Brian, how's it going? We're talking Mandalorian, like you already know. You've watched both episodes. You got any questions or you got any comments to make, leave them in the chat. We'll discuss them because we're just going on a tirade about Baby Yoda right now.
Also, we missed a follower earlier. I didn't get to see who it was.
Oh, sad day. Hold up. Baby Yoda is lit. I mean, Baby Yoda's pretty cool. Tlu02.
It's Tyler Lewis. This is my buddy.
Oh, it's your buddy Tyler?
Yeah.
Well, hey, Tyler. Baby Yoda is lit, and I'm all for it. I just want them to explain what it is because I want to know.
I do have questions.
And that's what I like about it. It's like, I just want to know what it is. I don't want them to explain it so I can be like, I hate it or I don't hate it. I just want to know. I have so many questions. I need answers.
And I think that was why I kind of agree on doing that this early. Because once you give something this big to a TV show,
yeah,
now you've added interest. You've put something back into the Star Wars canon that people are going to be like, oh, I actually have to watch this. Versus, like with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as we were talking about earlier. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to the MCU, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. follows behind the MCU, but never really directly correlates and interacts with it. The events of the MCU change Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a couple of times throughout the show. What?
So Brian said he's just interested to see where they go with it, and we are too. He's liked the first episode so far, that's great. And I am aware about the C and the YouTube link, but it works either way, so... Right, and there's also the thing, like I said, with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that like it's running sort of parallel to the MCU, but not really. But the fallout of the main stories of the MCU does affect the show.
Yeah, but this time they're bringing in, like, everyone knows Yoda. Everyone can identify with Yoda if you've seen any of the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, and even if you haven't, chances are you're gonna know. It's like, oh, that's the guy from Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the little green guy from Star Wars.
Yeah, everyone,
This is a little baby version of that. So now if everyone's like, oh, are they actually changing the universe through this show?
Yeah.
And so it's going to cause people to come back. It's going to grow that retention rate pretty heavily.
I mean, I just need to know.
Oh, yeah, I definitely have questions. But, I mean, that's what we're here for. It's why we're watching.
They're just going to redo Yaddle. That's all it is.
I hope not.
It's Yaddle.
I really hope not.
Yaddle is the best.
Disagree.
Okay, Master Vandar?
Better.
That would be kind of cool. I don't think we're going there at all.
No.
No, that would be... That's the dream you want to happen. You want... just suddenly we're in KOTOR.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorian is actually Revan.
Ooh, no. Don't want.
Yep.
No.
And Kuil the Ugnaught is actually Bastila.
I hate this timeline.
So Brian says, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had the benefit of running alongside the MCU timeline. I think Mandalorian running at a different time of the canon universe will bring more eyes to it, especially with how it has been going so far.
Particularly since people don't really read books anymore, and so there's like a small audience of the Star Wars fans.
And I keep telling people to read the books because things are lining up, and even if they don't, they're still lining up. You gotta read the books. Ugh! Okay, I'm good.
The problem is, and part of the reason people aren't reading them is there's just not, like, there hasn't been any real big connections to the movies recently. Like,
and if you were to do that, it would be so difficult.
Don't tell me what to do.
Brian, we'll always tell you what to do. We love you. But it would be so difficult to do that because that's one of the reasons, like, you haven't seen any of these big name characters from any of the books or the games appear on screen in any of the live action movies in any capacity because you can't just tie it in that bad. You can't just bring someone on screen and just be like, hi, Nora Wexley, and everyone be like, oh my god, that's Nora from the books. And everyone be like, who's that? I don't understand. Why? Okay, cool.
And like I said, that's they're part and parcel. They kind of go back and forth with each other.
The only one that they did that with was Temmin Wexley. But even then, like, he doesn't have that big of a role, but we know he's there.
Yeah, he's there.
He's the exception.
We do get some kind of hints at stuff as well, like the Battlefront 2 campaign, the compass, and Luke getting that. Like, if you play the game, you know exactly how he manages to get that. And then at the end of The Last Jedi, they're calling for help and saying, like, we have allies that are still out there. They'll
in
come
the
to
Outer
help
Rim,
out.
talking about Zay and Shriv.
Yeah, Zay and Shriv had already gone out to the Outer Rim seeking to rally some of those allies. And so we were hoping, but then the movie just ends and you're like, well, there goes that dream. Like,
but it's possible with Resistance Reborn coming out that we could possibly get some of that stuff leading into The Rise of Skywalker.
And I'm sure we'll get something. Maybe it is Resistance Reborn, and that's the end of that story, or kind of a pull back into that story. But would have been much cooler if like in the passing hangar shots of the beginning of Episode 9, if you just see Zay and Shriv just kind of make their way through.
Yeah, and so like with the Mandalorian, I think one of the other things is that it's not so much tying the Mandalorian into the movies. I don't think they're going to do that just because there's literally no movie you can tie it into besides Return of the Jedi, and it's just the fallout from Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. This show is taking place so close after it that there's still 28 years before the Battle of Jakku, which is even then. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. It's the Battle of Jakku takes place 29 years before the events of The Force Awakens. So however long between Return of the Jedi and the Battle of Jakku may not even have happened yet. It may have already happened. We don't know. We just know that this takes place after 6 at some point in time. Mm-hmm. So everyone's saying, what about everyone's involvement with the movies coming into the TV show? I think that would be a little easier to do. I don't think it's necessary, but if they were to do it, it would probably be like, if you're watching the show, you've seen the movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could pull that off. I think minor characters could have a role, especially ignoring The Mandalorian. And
sure.
Looking at the broader Star Wars catalog and what's coming. We have Cassian Andor's series coming soon. I don't know exactly what the dates are. I know they start production next year. But in that situation, you can have any of the cast that was in Rogue One working with him periodically.
Oh, yeah.
He was a member of that world and that universe. So, yeah, you could bring back in... I forget the lady's name that was the new Mon Mothma. Mm-hmm. But have her just leading a
Bail Organa.
You'd have, Jimmy Smits, Bail Organa come right back in. Like, there's a door that's wide open for this. The Mandalorian is hard because we're kind of just floating in an unfilled space void. But we don't know what's coming next. Like, we don't know where they're planning to go with this thing.
I keep adding on to this idea. I had a friend message me the other day, Chris, and he was mentioning, he's like, I gotta talk to you about this, man. I was like, what is it, Chris? And he's like, I think Thrawn's gonna be in The Mandalorian. I said, okay, I don't hate that idea, but give me a reason. What's your sources here? And he was talking about how it was related to the books, but then I had to break to him that the books were no longer canon and that there were new Thrawn novels. But the more I think about it, the more I kind of thread it together, I could see it happen. But one, it would have to just be like in passing, sort of like in mention or something, and not have an arc based around him. Because Thrawn, at the time, I don't know what the timeline is for him after Return of the Jedi. I know in the original Legends lore, his time was big after the fall of the Emperor. Like, he was the big guy there. Now, not so much. Now it's more so of Admiral Ray Sloan, which I think could possibly be. T, thank you so much for tabbing.
Hey, girl.
You are absolutely the best. You're the best Twitch mom. We love you more than life itself.
Facts.
Like, I'm not worthy.
True.
I know you're streaming right now, and I hope you have a fantastic stream. So, right now, instead of Thrawn, the big person we see a lot is Grand Admiral Ray Sloan, which would also be cool to see. But here's my theory. In Rebels, let's go back a little farther. In Rogue One, we get a look at the new Death Troopers that surround Orson Krennic.
Yes.
In Rebels, when Thrawn is introduced again back into canon, we also get a look at the Death Troopers working with Thrawn. We know Ninja Panda with the raid of 3 people. Thank you so much. You are the best.
My boy.
Ninja Panda, party of 3. Ninja Panda, party of 3. We love
the cuteness is coming in. How you doing, buddy?
Hope
you're
doing
well.
So much. We're talking Mandalorian. If you guys saw anything from the Mandalorian, let us know. If you haven't watched it, this is spoiler talk, so you stay if you'd like.
Yeah, stay at your own risk.
So we see the Death Troopers around Thrawn in Rebels. Mm-hmm. We have seen that there are going to be Death Troopers in the Mandalorian at some point, because one of the main actors that we haven't seen yet is Giancarlo Esposito. We saw him in Breaking Bad. He was fantastic. So now he looks like he's the leader of a Death Trooper troop or group agent, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's possible they could be their own thing, kind of sticking together after the fall of the Empire. That would not surprise me at all. But what if they're also after the baby to keep it away from the client?
That could make some sense.
Because the Empire is technically fighting each other, because they're wanting power. Everyone's wanting power. Or there's like, hey, I'm Empire, you're Empire, let's join forces. And if you say no, we're like, how about we just raid you and take all your stuff?
How about we invade your country and take your stuff? Do you have a flag?
Yeah, literally, that's what the Empire is doing right now. So, I mean, it's possible that these Death Troopers might not be for the client. They could be for the client, and when he refuses to turn the baby over, the client's like, we can't have that. And then he sends in the Death Troopers. It could be a lot of things, but if we were to see Thrawn or Sloan in any capacity, I think Sloan would honestly be an awesome thing to do. But I think the Death Troopers are going to be related to someone in a higher up position. or it could be the client, and he is in a higher up position. We just don't know it yet because he's simply still known as the client.
And it could even be that, in the same vein of thinking, that he does, or that these troopers will become a part of the client's background and some of his entourage.
Because his stormtroopers look rough. I thought they were like OG death troopers, like the zombies at first. Like, they opened the door and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that was weird.
They don't look happy.
But if they are a part of his vanguard or entourage, or however you want to consider it, we just talked about how this Pedro Pascal's character seems to be very tender and soft towards this baby. He may just defect out of the job.
I really think he's just gonna take the baby and bounce.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking
I think he's gonna be like, hey, Grief, Carl Weathers, Apollo, you're in danger. You're coming with me too. And he's just gonna like take the people that he like actually cares about and just bounce. And then he's gonna end up meeting Gina Carano's character later on, and then maybe because they bounce, Ming-Na Wen's assassin character is going to be coming after them. Everything's being tied together now.
It's possible.
Get the board in the red string. I have it.
Consider this.
Okay.
The guy we were just talking about earlier, the I Have Spoken guy.
Yes, Kuil.
Kuil. Maybe because we were talking about IG-11 earlier and how we hoped he'd have a bigger role. Maybe Kuil goes back and finds IG-11. Maybe something brings them together, because he is a tinkerer, he is a repairman. We just saw him fix the ship tonight.
I'd be okay with that,
because then you would have a full kind of crew. If you've got Carl Weathers, Pedro Pascal, Kuil, Baby Yoda.
You always got to have a Baby Yoda.
And then IG-11, that would be a very fun dynamic. It was just like two guys that can't really fight, like two of them are kind of aged out a little bit, a baby, a mass murdering robot, and then just like the best fighter you've ever seen in The Mandalorian. I really just want he needs a name. I'm gonna call him Bob or something. I'm not gonna refer to him as the Mandalorian for the rest of the season.
It's just Mando, because that's what they called him in that first episode. I guess it was just slang talk. It's like, hey, Mando.
I mean, yeah, it's like Mandalore, like there are names, but Mandalore's kind of a chief of a
Mandalorian. Part man, part DeLorean.
Vroom vroom.
So many different things you could do, and so many different ways you could take the show, but
I'm all in.
And the fact that Jon Favreau is already working on a season 2.
Yeah, that's very exciting, especially since this one is rather short.
And we got 8 episodes in total.
Yeah, so like I'm good with that, but since it is kind of short, I'm glad that we're already moving into a season 2.
Yes, because it is going to keep me up to date and just keep me like fed with Star Wars until The Rise of Skywalker comes out in a couple weeks.
And yeah, I mean,
we're already running into the end of November.
We're getting close. After this, it's what, 3 weeks, and then we're in the week of premiere, or 4 weeks.
We've got 2 more weeks of November left.
Yeah,
and then because it's going to be on the 19th is when we're going.
Yeah,
for the premiere. Oh, I'm so excited.
But this week also, another big development in the Star Wars world that'll help us get to The Rise of Skywalker.
Did I miss something?
Jedi Fallen Order has released today, and it is hitting to thunderous reviews.
Good.
I saw a tweet earlier where it was like...
it's actually right here. We got Christian Harloff, guy from used to work with Collider. Now he's working with full-time Schmodown Entertainment Network. Love it.
Yeah, the ex-host, I guess you would call him now.
He says, started playing Jedi Fallen Order, and I love it so far. I have been waiting for a story-based Star Wars game for a while. We all have. Battlefront 2 was fine, but this game, similar to Uncharted, is definitely my speed. Great week for Star Wars fans, and I couldn't agree more with that. So you get 2 great episodes of The Mandalorian and a kick-ass Star Wars game that didn't get canceled.
And
holy hell, it didn't get canceled.
Resistance Reborn, was that earlier this week or last
Resistance Reborn came out, I want to say it was way earlier, actually. I believe it was actually November 5th, because that was the night of my concert.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah, it's been out for a while, but I mean, still, like, November's been hitting.
Yeah, at least this month.
And there's like I think there's like 2 or 3 more Star Wars books that are actually being released this month. Because 2 of them are also in the lead up to The Rise of Skywalker, and another one is like a junior novel.
That makes sense. They've got a lot of those.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of Star Wars coming out this month.
And it's been a good one. I saw earlier, as I was saying, somebody was like, I asked Google if lightning could strike twice in the same place in the same year, and it brought me to the Respawn Entertainment page, because Apex had like an 89 overall rating, and then Fallen Order had a 90 overall. On, I think it was GameRanks they were looking at.
I don't know when I'm going to be able to get the game, but I need to.
One
And I
of
will.
one of my friends already has it. I'm in the process of messaging him if he'll game share with me so I can play it like tonight.
Okay, do that, beat it, and then I'm gonna take over your setup for like a few hours.
Yeah, that's
Because it's got to happen.
probably just gonna move my setup into the living room, to be honest.
I mean, I will be okay with these terms of service.
Yeah, if that happens, we'll see.
But God, there's still just so much I want to keep going about. It's just the Mandalorian is just where it's at. But let's move away from that a little bit. If we got more, we can come back to that. But just Disney Plus as a whole,
I'm so happy with it. I am ecstatic right now.
aside from the technical malfunctions that they have, which honestly shocked a lot of people, they'd figured they'd be prepared for this. Day one of Disney Plus opens up to more than 100 million users.
And that's where I forgave them, because pretty much no stress test is going to prepare you for 100 million.
Yeah, so you start a
give them some
stream.
slack.
But I mean, the marketing was great for it. They did everything right. They're like, hey, just about everything we own is going to be on there from launch. And damn, they were not kidding. There were some teases about the MCU. We talked about this morning that there was only going to be 6 films from the MCU in there. And they lied. They put all of it on there except for 3, I believe it was Black Panther, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Infinity War.
Yep.
And I know, because all of those are still tied in with contract with Netflix, so they're waiting for that to roll over. So I guess the contract for Iron Man 2 with Hulu ran out recently.
Even then, it may just been, now that Disney owns them all, they were able to restructure some of these deals to
Possibly,
move things around. Because we were told that there'd be at least 6 that weren't going to be on there, but now we have everything but 3. And
I'm happy.
I'm not complaining because we have Netflix too. So
And then we
it's
have
all good.
everything from the Star Wars catalog except for Solo and Episode 8, which are going to be out later next year.
Yeah.
I already own those, so it's fine.
Yeah, we're good.
So we got just fantastic catalogs, like everything. Like I looked through a lot of it. The Marvel stuff is ridiculous. There's stuff on there I didn't know I needed. You know, we got gargoyles.
That was the one thing. Is like, I love Marvel. I'm a huge comic book nerd. I love Star Wars. Been entrenched in that my whole life.
It's fabulous.
But Gargoyles being back was the second thing I think that we watched as a whole. Like we watched The Mandalorian, and then Charlie and I sat in there and watched like 4 episodes of Gargoyles, and it was fantastic.
It was pretty great. Another thing was just like everything in the Star Wars realm, because you got a couple you got one good documentary and a lot of like Lego shorts, which I'll probably watch at some point just because. But the documentaries that are available through every aspect of Disney Plus, whether it's Star Wars, if it's National Geographic, which is on there, just Disney, Pixar, Marvel, all of it, it's so good. Actual like documentaries they've put on there is like stuff that I want to sit down and watch and keep watching and not stop. And then after it ended, I was like, I want to do this again.
And that's what I'm saying is, as somebody who really wants to make that kind of film, I've said multiple times my dream job would be to kind of be a documentarian for like a major motion picture or even touring artists or something like that. I'd love to make that kind of content. Yeah, every time I see a new documentary, whether it's Wildlife or it's Star Wars or it's Marvel or whatever, I'm just like, oh no, I'm going to watch this. If it's professionally done, I'm going to watch it.
Listen, I'm just saying, if you want to watch the Star Wars documentary after this, I'm so down.
I think I have a few things to do, but I'm also not against that. So we'll see.
I was
That's
gonna
the
say,
priority
it
balance.
it is 2.5 hours.
That's fine.
Good.
I watched The Director of the Jedi like 3 times in a week. So
And it's because it's a great documentary.
it's fantastic.
And I even told my boss that. She was talking about it because she said that she's part of... I think she said she was one of the people that actually liked The Last Jedi, because everyone I worked with was just hating on it the whole time. I was just like, wow, I feel outed right now. Like, guys, come on. But then I told her, I said, go. It was like, do you have it? She's like, yeah, I bought it on Blu-ray. I was like, cool. Go to the special features and watch the documentary Director and the Jedi. Change your life.
It does add a lot of perspective to Rian Johnson's take on Star Wars.
Absolutely.
And also, as I watch it, I realize there's nothing about The Last Jedi that could make me dislike it more than I dislike 90% of the prequels. And so that cleared a huge benchmark. Like, to
See,
be honest.
look, we don't watch the prequels for the story or the graphics or anything.
We watch it for the shooty
and the zoomy.
Exactly. Like, there's no big difference between them.
I mean, Revenge of the Sith is good.
It's okay. The dialogue still just sucks.
You were the chosen one.
A spade, man. That's all it is.
I mean, you know. Yeah, okay.
We watched Attack of the Clones the other night, and it felt like it was 4.5 hours long.
I mean, honestly, yeah, watching it, like, that movie's always felt long to me, but that, for some reason in particular, when they landed on Geonosis, I was just like, they still have, like, 2 battles to go through.
I was like, I've been laying on this couch for 3 days, dude. I've forgotten what it's like to stand up.
It was a long movie.
But the thing is, visually, it's my favorite Star Wars movie.
It's so colorful.
Yeah, the colors, and it's so different and punchy, and yeah, I love that look.
Honestly, I kind of want to watch the movie on mute and see how that affects it. Like, no subtitles or anything, just quiet.
I mean, the fights are pretty cool.
I was say, yeah, I love the fights. Like, the fights on Geonosis and just the smaller scraps between, like, Jango Fett and Obi-Wan on Kamino are great sequences.
It's weird now watching the Jango Fett backpack stuff, because you can definitely see some cracks in the armor as far as how that
you
was
can
animated.
actually see what happened.
Yeah. And I don't love and I'm kind of in the minority here when it comes to that movie, is I don't love the Yoda Dooku fight, because I feel like Yoda's so small and they turned his back a lot.
You know, one of the things I realized after watching it this time, it's like the same 6 motions repeated like 3 times. It's the same amounts of spins and flips and sabers, like slashes. And it was like they just took the movement and then repeated it 3 times in 3 different locations. Like, you go back and watch that, you're like...
It's pretty similar.
Yeah. So, I mean, there might be small differences here and there, but for the most part, copy-paste.
Yeah, and it worked, I guess, but counteracting that, the Anakin bit where he and Dooku kind of fall into the shadows and they're just
I love that.
going back and forth, that is lit beautifully. It's shot perfectly. Like,
Even though they really are just in front of the camera doing this.
yeah, they're really just kind of like waving shit at each other. It's fine.
That's all they're
But
doing.
moving back away from Star Wars for a minute, because documentaries got us here somehow.
Disney Plus is great, and honestly, regardless of how you're getting it, if your parents have it, if you have unlimited with Verizon and you're getting 6 months free, or you're changing to it and getting the year free, or you just outright bought it yourself, it's definitely worth it. And the app on your phone is so user-friendly. I loved it. I open it just to show people how great it is. Honestly, I'm like, so this is Disney Plus. This is everything it has.
Just
Go
keep
get
scrolling
it.
for a while. The other thing that really draws me to this particular collection on Disney Plus, because I'm sure it'll grow over time.
Yeah.
The available at launch collection has a lot of the Marvel stuff that I missed out on. Things that I just probably came out recently that I just didn't get a chance to even know existed.
Original Spider-Man stuff, original X-Men stuff.
There's old X-Men stuff, X-Men Evolution's on there, and that's what really started my comic book nerdom. I had watched the original show, X-Men the Animated Series, and that's what first got me interested, alongside Batman the Animated Series. But X-Men Evolution is what really honed me in. Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde in that show, just my wife forever. Love her so much. But then the Marvel Legends, I think that's what they were calling the one show.
The one show that you had like no idea what it was.
Yeah, like it came across our timeline, and it's got Kamala Khan and a few other people on the art, and I was like, Uprising. It's Marvel.
You looked at it, you were like, when did that get there?
Yeah, it's like, I stand Kamala Khan. Make no mistake about it. I love that character, and so it came across my screen, and I was like, I haven't had cable in like 5, 7, 8, 9 years. I don't even know anymore.
I haven't had cable.
Yeah, it's like, I only watch Netflix and Hulu. Wow. I forgot. And then HBO for Game of Thrones. But it was really like, this all flew under my radar. Okay, cool. I have homework to do.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I have homework to do.
And that's why I'm so happy that now with like Disney Plus, I have access to the entirety of the Clone Wars and the entirety of... Thank you so much, Brian, for gifting a sub to Ninja Panda. You're amazing. We have the entirety of the Clone Wars, which I've actually never watched all the way through. I don't know, I just can't get into it. Whereas Rebels is like addicting as hell to me, and I love Rebels so much.
I'm the exact opposite, because the animation style of Rebels throws me off.
The animation style of Rebels is very different. I don't like the super thin lightsabers. I don't know what was up with that, but it's not my thing.
I've grown to like it a lot, but I caught the Clone Wars right as they were coming out and first being developed, so I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing.
Well, see, and I did too, but it was just like, I don't know what it was. I just couldn't get into it. And I'm trying to rewatch it now, and I am enjoying it, but it's just like there was just so many different stories that were going on, and it was always jumping back and forth. Granted, it is the Clone Wars. It's a giant war. It's not just one parallel story. There's everything's going on at once. You know, one episode you're with Luminara, then you're with Kit Fisto, then you're with Anakin, then you're with Obi-Wan, then Ahsoka's leaving the Jedi Order, and then she's coming back, and it's a nightmare. Tarkin comes in at some point.
There is a lot going on in that show.
And then with Rebels, you just have these small band of characters, and you follow that storyline. And I guess for some reason, because it's just so focused on the one small area of characters, you can see the character development a lot more, and you can see how everything's happened since the Clone Wars. And I don't know. I guess that's just why it like takes me.
I think you definitely get more concentrated
And
development
it has Thrawn.
out of those 4 or 5 that are in that group.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to the droids and everything, it's probably like 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, with the Clone Wars side of things, it's like it does get a little sporadic, but you get kind of slice of life episodes out of other people, and I really enjoy that. It's like what we're talking about with Chuck Wendig's storytelling in Aftermath in that trilogy, where it has these interludes that show you the galaxy and what's going on in random corners of it, and I'm like, I enjoy that.
But I imagine, since I'm going through season 1. After season 1, I imagine it's going to start getting into bigger story arcs.
Yeah,
And everything's going to start kind of tying together a little bit. And I just have to and I realize that I have to get through it, pretty much like you with the beginning of Aftermath, because you're just like, we're so far back. I want to go to the stuff that's happening in episode 9.
that's literally all my issue is with Aftermath. I'm really enjoying the writing. It was just physically taking myself back in the story to be like, okay, so I have to learn all these characters, even though I already know what happened afterwards, and I really just want to know more about what's about to happen. But to get to that point, I have to read through this point and... Okay, I'm going to do it this time. And then make it like 10 pages and be like, no, I'm not. Okay, good try.
I'm saying then I'm plowing through Alphabet Squadron right now, trying to get through that so I can get to Resistance Reborn before episode 9. It's a challenge.
Thankfully, I read like a velociraptor, so once I just force myself to just sit down...
How does a velociraptor read?
Very carefully.
Okay. Elephant? What was the...
Familiar elephants?
I don't think... Yeah. There's similar elephants there, just aren't.
They're a familiar elephant...
Menthols. Yikes.
They're elephant menthols. This episode brought to you by Elephant Menthols. Now,
Don't sponsor us, please.
please stay far away from me. I want nothing to do with you.
Disney Plus sponsor me. Lucasfilm sponsor me? Is that possible?
Anything's possible if you dream hard enough.
Okay. I'll do it. Just for you, Mom.
Does that mean we get a Del Rey publishing for our book?
I hope so. That would be amazing. They would take all our money.
Whatever, man. I'm
Just
down
publish
for it.
it. Publish it, please.
But yeah, the Marvel stuff has been great. I'm really enjoying looking through that. Gargoyles, fantastic. Best animated show ever made.
It's the
Fight
uncut
me.
version of Gargoyles, as I've come to realize.
Uncut, and I think, like, unrated, technically.
Yeah, unrated and uncut. I don't know what else they could possibly have besides a couple, like, stab wounds.
Yeah.
There's been a couple, like, they've dropped the hell bomb a couple times, but I guess,
And the show in general is just kind of dark anyway. Like, it's kind
It
of
is,
grim.
yeah, like, when it first, I remember watching it, like, when it first came out, and I was just like, nice. Gargoyles.
Dude, I love that show so much. It just has such a special place in my heart.
It's good.
It's so fun.
I mean, overall, though, Disney Plus is the vibe. It is the wave.
Oh, it's the actual wave. No
It is
question.
going to dominate streaming for a while. I don't think it's going to completely, like, knock people out of business. Hell no.
It's going to force people to change their strategy. And
100%.
We're already seeing that happen. HBO already landing Green Lantern on their side of things. That's definitely going to be interworked with whatever Warner Max or whatever they're doing. I don't know what the actual streaming service is going to be called, but it's whatever they're co-opting HBO Go or HBO Now into alongside of the DC Universe stuff. All of the Warner properties are going to coalesce into one streaming service. So that's definitely happening over there. Amazon, as we've seen, already found a hit in The Boys, and that's in the comic book realm.
And they're already working on that Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah, they've got Lord of the Rings coming over there. The Boys just finished wrap on season 2 today.
Okay.
I just saw that Instagram post.
Nice.
So that's interesting. Netflix earlier this year and late last year they've already had the Marvel thing, but once that fell apart, they went back and they started talking to individual creators. Last year, they signed with Mark Millar. They've got the entirety of the Millar World books. He's the guy who created Kingsman, so his whole world is set to debut, I think, in 2020. The first show was coming.
Did you actually see that the King's Man got pushed back to September?
Interesting.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in February.
Yeah.
Because that means more room for Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yep.
But yeah, Millar's going there. Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba already have
Umbrella
Academy on there. That was confirmed for season 2. So we haven't. I don't think they're producing it yet, but it's happening.
So streaming is like just kicking ass right now.
So yeah,
honestly.
there's like a comic book war amongst streaming
Say
which is
Hulu was
weird.
like the wave there for a little bit. People were kind of getting tired of Netflix, and everyone was like kind of moving over to Hulu. And Hulu's just like, hey guys, we're Hulu.
Well, they're gonna be used as like the adult side of Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
And they already had the other Marvel shows, like Runaways and stuff, was previously like only specifically available there. And now Hulu doesn't have to worry about having these huge exclusives or anything because they're under the Disney umbrella. They can put things there that don't belong on Disney Plus. We've heard that the R-rated Marvel stuff may find its home on Hulu.
It is, yeah.
I don't know how much of that's actually still happening because Ghost Rider was supposedly getting a show and then it's absolutely not getting it now.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of
questions still in the air
like
about
I would
that.
say there's a lot of the like outer side of the Marvel stuff that's just trying to like grow and do its own thing is just like not having a good time.
And I think it's because they needed to come to terms with the fact that Disney Plus is what they need to do. They needed the Loki and the Captain or the Falcon.
So
Winter
they
Soldier.
needed their own streaming service so they could release all these TV shows under the same banner so they could have more creative control over what they wanted. Just so much like with the MCU.
And it was also didn't help that TV and film were not in the same departments for the Marvel Studios guys.
And now,
I think it was Marvel Entertainment was doing the video games and the TV or something like that, while Studios was just handling the film. But now that Kevin Feige,
I was about to say, and now that
CCO,
Kevin Feige is like
he's the chief creative
overlord
officer.
of everything, he is the emperor.
Yeah, and now he goes around a man that won't be named. Honestly, I'm just not going to give him any shine on this because I truly think that he's responsible for a lot of the reasons that Marvel suffered on the TV side of things. But he'll be skipping directly over him and reporting to Alan Horn and Bob Iger and that huge
Uncle Bob.
team. Yeah, the huge actual leadership team. And that way they can kind of bypass any confusion between the TV and the MCU. The shows that aren't directly MCU related seem like they're going to be wrapping up. One, I think Cloak and Dagger has already been canceled, or Runaways. One of them has already been given their stop. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming up on its last season this year or next year. I think maybe it launches next year. I'm not certain. I haven't been keeping up with that. Legion just ended on FX. It had 3 seasons, I think.
I
before
forgot
it came
about
all
that show, yeah.
So everything is kind of just being pulled back in and recentered to the MCU shows and Kevin Feige's protection.
And everyone just wants to know what's happening with New Mutants.
Nobody wants to know what's happening with New Mutants.
God, that's just...
Which I think they wasted a great cast. Anya Taylor-Joy, oh my god, Arya Stark, the actress, completely... Macy Williams, there we go, completely slipped my mind there for a minute. There are a lot of other people in that cast that were standouts, and I'm like, how did we mess this up? How? Where did it go wrong?
You can't mess this up. You can't possibly... How did you mess that up?
It's like, what baboon did you give the script that it took like a year and a half of pushbacks and still wasn't fixed?
I don't know. When I saw the first trailer, I was just like, I don't know what I'm watching here.
I saw the first trailer, I was like, I'm in. Instantly, yep, this is great. Do the thing,
I
please.
was gonna say, I was like, I just, it didn't catch my eye at all. I was just like, okay, is this a horror show? What is this? And then they're like, reshoots. I was like, you've been reshooting for 4 years. You have a completely different movie.
And they were really dead by the end.
Like, literally, like, the cast got older, guys.
I think the thing that really landed them in hot water was after they were like, okay, New Mutants, finally done. No more reshoots. And now we have to reshoot the ending of Dark Phoenix. How the hell did we do this?
Oh, by the way, guys, we just bought Fox, so you gotta hurry up.
And you have 4 minutes, so better get those reshoots in quick. I'm gonna go get a bagel.
It's like the
by time
picture.
we're back.
It's that picture of the horse with like it's like at the beginning of the semester and the end of the semester. It's like a really nicely illustrated horse that is just a stick figure by the end of it. That's literally what happened. In New
Half a
Mutants.
body in a stick figure.
It was bad.
And like I said, it's an absolute shame that we won't get to see them. But at the same time, because we didn't see them, maybe we'll start to see them in other places. Maybe we'll be like, okay, well, the public never got to see Maisie Williams in that kind of role. So in the MCU, when we need somebody who's up and coming and somebody young, like recognizable, that carries some name, but someone who hasn't been given a comic book or superhero role before, you'll have that to pull from. And we've already seen the MCU is no stranger to going right after and poaching actors away from Game of Thrones because they were ready to sign Kit Harington. That happened real fast.
Yeah, I don't know what it was with that, but it was like as soon as Game of Thrones ended, everyone was just like, "Hi, sign contract, please. We give money."
After they shot, I mean, Thrones has been wrapped for 2 years
Yeah.
now. Like they've been done shooting it for a while. We saw Emilia Clarke right away went and did Solo. Richard Madden also joining the Eternals. He's been off of Thrones for the last 5 seasons, but still a member of that cast that just immediately got signed right back into the bigger side of things. You know, he didn't
Peter
fall back in the
Dinklage
shadows.
does whatever he wants.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage just an icon. He can do whatever he wants. He could have been filming at the exact same time for both of those.
I was like, because he's been in 2 Marvel properties now.
Yeah, because he was
in Days of Future Past, and then he was in Infinity War.
yeah, he's the dwarf guy on Niflheim, I think is what it is.
Is it? Okay, sure, I'll take your word for it.
I think that's what it is. It's the fucking Asgardian.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I just read the Magnus Chase books not that long ago. I should know these. If Charlie's in the chat, he can tell us. I don't know.
Definitely asleep on the couch right
Probably. But anyway, yeah. Peter Dinklage, another obvious choice where I was like, yeah, no, he's definitely going somewhere. Amelia Clark, already in Star Wars. Madden, Harrington, already there. If we've heard...
It's all moving over to Disney. Everyone's just like, and now you're mine.
No, I just realized, now that Benioff and Weiss are out, we heard that the guy who played Sir Davos in Game of Thrones was in talks with them to maybe do something in their film. But now that they're out and that movie's being scrapped, he's probably not going to be in Star Wars. And that makes
I don't think the
sad.
movie's being scrapped. I think it's just going to be given to someone else. I'm pretty sure they already knew what they were going to do with the movie, and they're just like, okay, goodbye, and we'll just take that back, and here you go.
Maybe, and I would hope so. But also at the same time, the relationships aren't the same. So the chance of him coming in are still pretty slim.
I was going to say, as far as like the story goes, it'll probably stay the same. But yes, I don't know what his situation is going to be now that Benioff and Weiss are out of the picture. But whether you like it or not, it still kind of sucks.
But that's all the thoughts I have. I know we got a little off track there at the end.
But I mean, no, it's all relating to Disney Plus. Get Disney Plus. You will not regret it. Watch The Mandalorian if you hadn't, and you're just a heathen that wanted to know all the spoilers so you could go back and watch it again.
Nick, if you're in here and you haven't watched it, I swear I'm going to beat you with
If you're like Charlie and you hate suspense and you have to know what happens, like he literally tells me he reads the endings of books sometimes so he doesn't stress about characters in it. I'm like, that hurts me. And I read like 4 books ever.
Nick looked me in the face and tried to read to the end of one of the Game of Thrones episodes online. And I was like, no, you shan't.
You can't do that.
You've become a perfect target for my chancla throwing competition.
But, I mean, yeah, we've talked a lot, and we don't want to get too off track because we're guaranteed we're going to have more stuff to talk about next week. And who knows what that's going to be about. But we'll probably have more movie news by then. That's going to be something fun.
Yeah, we'll not do as much Mandalorian talk next week.
No, definitely not. We'll touch on it a little bit, but I'm sure there's going to be something big that breaks next week. Probably Batman related at this rate.
Honestly, yeah, because there is huge casting stuff going on.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised. But if you like what you saw, guys, if you're watching this live on Twitch, be sure to drop a follow or subscribe if you'd like to. If you got Twitch Prime, you want to hit that. Or if you're watching this pre-recording on YouTube, go ahead, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think. Do you like Joker's Movie Network? Do you like JMN? We like JMN. I think it's a new thing that we're doing, and we're doing it really well. But for real, thank you guys for sticking around, and we'll catch you guys next week.
On the team is a good